Hi everyone, Christina Barnes here from Stamping. I hope you're all doing well today. I thought I would make a card using the Wild and Sweet stamp set, which is one that I've just got, and I have a whole stack of ideas. But I really want to today focus on making a card with a cute little koala, which of course I'm an Australian Stampin' Up demonstrator, so there's our lovely koala iconic Australian animal. So, alright, what I'm going to use today is some of the gorgeous pecan pie and also some, obviously not well enough organized here today. Okay, some of the Gingham, matching Gingham Designer Series paper, and I've got some of our Fluid 100 watercolor paper. Now, if you haven't used the Fluid 100 watercolor paper, I would highly recommend it. It's probably one of the best watercolor papers that I've ever used. Really, really good. Okay, so Glorious Gingham is the name of this one. It comes in these beautiful colours. I love it. Beautiful. Alright. So I've taken an A4 piece of cardstock and I've cut it lengthways because at the moment that's how I like to have my card bases. And then folding it in half. And I've cut a length of the gingham to go along the side like this, and the sheet of Fluid 100 watercolor paper, I've just cut that literally in half. So we're going to start with this, and I'm going to use my water painter. I'm going to colour, I'm just going to put water all over just to give it some, just to let the ink wash into the paper. Now if you put it on both sides, you'll find that it doesn't it doesn't warp as much, so just pop some water onto the reverse side as well. It'd be good to have some paper towel so that you can, or some kitchen towel, just to soak up, but I've got a bit of scrap. I'm just going to pop that down. So, okay, I'm going to use some Balmy Blue, and as you can see, I've used the inside of the lid, but if you don't want to do that, just use one of your clear blocks and pull up some ink from that. Alright, so I'm just going to really lightly wash some colour and just add as much or as little as you like. So that was Balmy Blue, and I've got Mossy Meadow. I'm going to do the same with that. So just taking the blue off the water painter, adding some colour onto the block. Okay, so we can make it as heavy as we want colour wise, or if you want to blend that out, just add more water into it. Okay, and that's all I wanted to do with the background of this one. So I'm going to pop my water painter to the side, and I'm just going to dry this off with the heat tool, just to make sure that that's nice and dry before the next step. So I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so we're all nice and dry. The next thing I'm going to do is to distress the edges. I want this to look, well, distressed. So I'm just going to take my paper snips. There are some tools specific to, you know, that you can do this with, but these are, it's just as easy to do it this way, and just going around the edge with your scissors and making a mess, basically. Alright, and so my son, when he was younger, used to say that I was making snow when I was doing this. You get all these little, as you can see, bits of cardstock coming off. So you can do this, you can make this as distressed as, you know, as much as you like, whether you want it really heavily distressed, or I'm just going to take a corner off there. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to colour the edges with some of the Pecan Pie ink. Now there's a couple of ways you could do this. You could use one of the sponge daubers and just adding some colour and popping some ink onto the side like this. But today I want to use one of the blending brushes. So when you're using the blending brushes, see how we've got blobs happening from, this is a new ink pad as well, so it's got a lot of ink on it. So just start off your page and then blend into the page, if that makes sense. So blending out here and then coming in, and that stops those blobs from being on your surface that you want to keep a bit nicer. I'm going right the way around. So when you're holding your blending brush, make sure you're either holding it here, or I put a finger in the middle here, and that just protects that that kind of weak spot here, and helps the brush to stay nice and firm. Now we're going to go all the way around. All right. So if you're watching, leave a comment. I love to hear where you're from and what your interests are, what you love with paper crafting. So leave me a comment, whether that's on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're coming from. Okay, so I've just closed that up, but actually I want that. Okay, so now I'm just going to stamp my koala in the center there. So you can king the stamp up. It is quite mushy, that ink pad. Alright, and might just go a little bit higher than centered. And there he is. Okay, so that's my main image done. And as I said, that's going to go over the top of that. But I think I might just pop some extra ink around the edge of this one. So you could distress this as well. I think I'm just going to sponge a bit of ink, a bit of colour around the edge. Oh, and I've got a blob there. Okay, so that's all right. We can kind of blend it out a little bit. So again, just adding as much or as little colour as you like. Maybe a bit more up the top. Okay. So let's move this one off. I'm just going to adhere this one down onto the card base. I'm going to use multi-purpose glue, but obviously you can use whatever adhesive you feel most comfortable with. I like the multi-purpose. I find that it just makes, especially for beginner stampers, it just makes it easier for, you know, a little bit of wiggle room, if you like, before it dries. So, and I think with this one, I'm going to wrap a little bit of linen thread just around the bottom. I'm not going to put a sentiment on it at all. At the moment, I'm wanting to make some just blank cards. Just got some tear and tape here to secure that. So securing it on one side here. I'm going to tie a knot here. Okay, so you could pop that up on dimensionals if you want it raised. For me, I'm just going to pop it straight down with, again, with some multi-purpose glue. You can take the backing off the tear and tape as well, and that will also help to secure. If you can get it to come off. Alright, there we go. Okay. Okay. Now, obviously, if you wanted to add a greeting, you could pop one here or at the top. If you wanted a bit of bling, you could add a a couple of dots or something on there, but I'm going to leave it like that. It's fairly simple, and highlights that lovely little koala. So there are lots of different ways we could have done that. We could have stamped the image and cut it out and used it as a mask before we did the wash behind it, or cut the koala separately. But yeah, I wanted to keep it fairly simple. So there's my card, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and happy stamping.